Right. Good morning, everyone. Frederick, I see you on the call. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. My co-host today is Charles Gray, sitting in our sister office in South Africa. That's Miro. It's now 1 minute past 12, 1 minute past midday here. And I request for an additional 5 minutes to see if we can get additional participants onto the call before we kick off. All right, Charles, I think we are good to kick off. We've got two participants so far on the call right now. We've got Frederick and Simon, all from Hudaco, but we expect we will onboard other participants as we move along. I would say let's kick off because I think this session is also important for them in terms of having more information around the ePMP. So we'll skip the niceties of the Hudaco Kenya introduction, and then we'll just very quickly go onto the ePMP 3000 discussion, if that's okay with you, Charles. So I'll just hand it over to you.
Perfect. We'll get going. Yeah, thanks guys for joining. Basically, yeah, I'm going to pretty much start off by taking a look at ePMP and follow through to the MicroPOP 3000, which is their latest release. Yeah, basically the whole purpose of the MicroPOP 3000 coming on board is to basically give integrators a bit more flexibility to be able to tackle smaller applications where they pretty much need to fill in the gaps in their network, without deploying something as intensive or as powerful as the full ePMP 3000 solution. So yeah, guys, I'm going to quickly just change over to share my screen. If you have any questions, I'd like to ask Terry just to keep an eye on the comment section, just to let me know if there's any questions as we go along. I'm going to be operating just with a single screen, so I won't be able to see the comments come through. Just going to close my mails just so that I don't get any pop-ups, and Skype as well. Cool, guys. So yeah, this should be pretty straightforward, and this is pretty much an ePMP update. As I said, the MicroPOP 3000 is a additional unit that is now being added to the range. So just to quickly define what is ePMP, as you guys will know, it's sort of Cambium's mid-range point-to-multipoint solution. And I say mid-range because it falls under your PMP 450. But in relation to other competitors, it's definitely a top-end unit. There are no other units in the market right now that are offering features like 4x4 MIMO. So where we currently stand with ePMP is the ePMP 3000. And how we got there is from the development and the research and development that has come from its sort of ancestors, the ePMP 1000, the ePMP 2000, which has then been bundled up with industry-leading throughput. And I'll explain to you how that works. So, via the ePMP 1000 and ePMP 2000, we saw some state-of-the-art features such as, the ePMP 1000's GPS synchronization. Then they follow through with the likes of frequency reuse, intelligent filtering, smart beamforming, and airtime fairness. Okay, so where ePMP sort of changes the ball game is obviously it's an upgrade of these predecessors with a more powerful CPU, etc. But they brought on board multi-user MIMO, which has been the primary game changer here. Taking a look at your ePMP 3000. Once again, I'm using this as a reference because we will touch on its new edition, which is the MicroPOP 3000. So with that sort of game-changing multi-user MIMO, what this basically means is that this unit is a 4x4 802.11 AC Wave 2 unit. So whereas a normal base station speaks to its subscriber modules or CPE devices, whatever you want to call it, in millisecond time slots, where basically the base station will do a sort of merry-go-round type scenario where in each millisecond time slot it speaks to a single subscriber module. With 4x4 MIMO, you are speaking to two subscriber modules at the same time. So basically, before you're looking at an improved CPU with better performance, as a rule of thumb, this radio is already speaking to two SMs at once, meaning that it's going to serve your total amount of subscriber modules or your clients in half the time that a normal base station would take to do so. Okay, obviously being a flagship unit within the ePMP range, this unit can max out at 120 subscriber modules. So that's a fair amount. If you're looking at any direct competitor, they're either going to max out at, let's say, 32 or 64 subscriber modules. We're able to push up to 1.2 gigabits per second at 256 QAM, and that's assuming that you open up the radio to a full 80 megahertz. Okay, so obviously that's not always going to be a real thing because in noisier scenarios, you may have to reduce the channel bandwidth or the channel width to, let's say, the likes of 40 megahertz. And of course, rule of thumb, if you're halving the megahertz, you will see half the throughput. So, hypothetically, you'd see about 600 megabits per second on 40 megahertz. Once again, the unit is coupled up with industry-leading GPS synchronization and frequency reuse. What this basically means is that if you have multiple base stations up on a tower, they will be able to synchronize using GPS, whereby the base stations will fire off at separate time intervals. Basically, what this means is that you can utilize the same portion of spectrum within the 5 gigahertz frequency. Whereas obviously if you had all radios firing off at the same time and communicating with the SMs at the same time, you would have to use different portions of the 5 gigahertz frequency. And we know that it's obviously becoming a very limited resource as we see more and more operators standardize on 5 gigahertz. So basically, by being able to use the same portion of 5 gigahertz, or within that 5 gigahertz frequency, it's a lot more of a resourceful and ethical way of utilizing that frequency. You then also have features such as intelligent filtering, which basically adds a bit of a buffer between the channels that you're using and those of surrounding, radios. So it just forms a bit of a buffer, meaning that there's not going to be any sort of overlap with your channel and surrounding noise and interference, meaning that you're going to have a more stable, noise-resistant link. And then last but not least, you've got a feature called smart beamforming. Okay, being an 802.11 AC Wave 2 radio, this radio already has an element of smart beamforming built into the technology. But with Cambium, you've also got the smart beamforming antenna, which is an additional sort of add-on to your sectorized antenna, which will actually further refine your beamforming. Okay, the way beamforming basically works is it maps out the most efficient route between, of communication between your base station and your CPE. And once it's done that, it will reutilize the route every single time it communicates with that subscriber module. So in a traditional radio without smart beamforming, that radio is going to have to map out the route from the base station, or the communication route from the base station to the SM every single time. And, it's going to have to avoid noise and interference, alternative, frequencies, and that takes a bit of time. So that's going to ultimately add to your latency. So smart beamforming will reduce your latency because it's already mapped out the most efficient path, and it will avoid noise and interference. So just to reiterate on the main game changer with the ePMP 3000, that is 4x4 MIMO. So as illustrated here, you'd typically have your ePMP 3000 base station, or access points as some may call it, located up on your tower. And in a scenario where you've got two Force 300 units, it will communicate with both of them in the same time slot. So you're doubling up on the throughput and you're halving the time that it takes to serve all your CPE devices. With the ePMP 3000 range, the relevant subscriber modules will be your Force 300 range. Okay, so basically these are going to be compatible with that 4x4 MIMO technology. So anything else, Force 180, Force 190, I'm going to touch on it now. It will work with the ePMP 3000, but you're not going to get 4x4 MIMO functionality, because you're going to have to step the network back from an AC Wave 2 network to a 802.11n network. But nonetheless, so you would want to encourage your clients to, or your users to utilize a Force 300 SM, whereby you've got options that vary from 25 dBi, 19, 16, 13, and you've also got a CSM unit, which refers to connectorized subscriber module, for when you would like to connect a slightly larger dish antenna, maybe a 30, 34 dBi, to achieve some longer distances of, let's say, 10 kilometers upwards. Being an AC radio, the Force 300, that it is able to push up to 500 megabits per second. It's got gigabit ports to obviously support speeds over 100 megabits per second. If you're looking at using the older generation 802.11n, Force 200, Force 180, and Force 180, Force 190 units with the ePMP 3000, that can most certainly be done. The ePMP 3000 is backward compatible, but as I said earlier, you will have to step the whole network down to 802.11n to work with these older generation units. So essentially, they need to be able to speak the same language. And the Force 200s, for instance, aren't able to speak 802.11 AC Wave 2, only 802.11n. So nonetheless, your network will work. You will lose 4x4 MIMO, but as a general sort of statistic, we're looking at about a 60% increase in performance when using the ePMP 3000 and 3000, and that's purely down to the new and improved CPU. Okay, something cool to note on the ePMP 3000 on the discussion of compatibility with subscriber modules is that it will be forward compatible with future base stations. And not only that, well, future subscriber modules, but not only that, the current subscriber modules of Force 300 range will also be forward compatible with future APs or base stations. So yeah, in summary, it's a great, the Force 300 units are the applicable ePMP 3000 subscriber modules, but you can use them in a point-to-point scenario as well. So not only is it a good point-to-multipoint solution, but if you're looking for a cost-effective point-to-point link, then the Force 300 units will definitely serve that purpose. Cool. Now looking at the types of ePMP units that are a bit more applicable to MicroPOP applications. Before I actually go on to the MicroPOP ePMP unit, we've got the ePMP 3000L, which I like to sort of describe as the baby brother to the ePMP. So it's still 802.11 AC Wave 2, but because it's looking to serve slightly smaller applications, you have only 2x2 MIMO on this unit, and that's because you're maxing out at about 64 subscriber modules. So still groundbreaking with regards to the number of CPE devices that you can serve, but it's got a little bit less kick than the ePMP 3000. Once again, it will also have frequency reuse and GPS synchronization, so that'll enable you to put multiple radios up on a tower and prevent them from communicating with each other. The units are ideal for MicroPOP solutions. So by MicroPOP, we're talking about smaller applications where you just need to sort of fill in the gaps in your network. Okay, where maybe something like a ePMP 3000 will be a bit of an overkill. Okay. Something to note is that this is actually an ideal migration tool, because if you have a scenario where maybe it's not going to be 100% financially viable to jump straight to the ePMP 3000, perhaps because you've only got a few clients that you need to serve, let's say 5, 10 or so. Okay, a great way to sort of start off your network is to roll out something like the ePMP 3000L, bundle that up with the Force 300 subscriber modules. Okay, but what that'll allow you to do is to get the ball rolling and start picking up clients. And let's say maybe a few months or a year down the line, you reach your SM threshold or your capacity threshold, you need something with a bit more power. All you can do is simply swap out the ePMP 3000L for a fully fledged ePMP 3000. Okay, where you'll then step up your whole network to a 4x4 MIMO network. And that's going to be allowed because you would have already rolled out with the Force 300 subscriber modules. Okay, something to note is that this unit is compatible with the Cambium 90/120 degree sectorized antenna. Okay, but we do have a few extra options in the form of the RF Elements Twistport adapters. So for those of you that don't know about RF Elements, this is really a great brand. I'm a huge fan of them, and they create a lot of awesome units that are compatible with the Cambium radios. Basically, these guys are experts in the distribution of radio frequency. So creating high quality antennas is their specialization. So for the 3000L, they've got basically two components that you can bundle up with this. Your RF Elements Twistport adapter, which basically just clips right on top of the the ePMP. Okay, you've got the two connectors, so this will just slot on top of that, and a nice clean Twistport adapter that can just simply be one of the RF Elements asymmetrical horns. So in this example, I've used a 60-degree example, but you've got a variety of different options. I think 30-degree, 40-degree, pretty much whatever your requirement is, DBI-wise as well. You can just speak to Hudaco Kenya, and they will be able to advise you on what units are available. So that's quite a neat, very clean installation option if you're using the ePMP 3000L. It is, of course, also a connectorized unit like the ePMP 3000, so you will need to attach an antenna. Then moving on to the newest update, addition to the ePMP range, which is your ePMP MP3000. So MP for MicroPOP. Essentially, guys, it's very easy to understand this unit. It is actually the same set as the ePMP 3000. It just takes on a slightly different form factor. So instead of a connectorized unit, we have a integrated unit that has a 9 dBi dual polarity omnidirectional antenna. Okay, so where this differentiates itself is that it is a radio and a full 360-degree antenna all in one. Okay, so once again, exactly the same specifications as the 3000L, so it's still 802.11 AC wave 2. It's a 2x2 MIMO unit, can serve up to 64 subscriber modules. And there's actually a little bit of an error here because this is supposed to say does not have frequency reuse and GPS synchronization. And I wonder if any of you guys know the answer to that already, but basically the reason why you wouldn't have frequency reuse and GPS synchronization on one of these units is that when you're mounting one of these units, the assumption is that you're putting up one radio to serve a full 360-degree radius. Okay, so you're not going to have these radios back to back. Otherwise, obviously it goes without saying they're going to overlap. Their coverage will overlap, and they're just going to cause noise and interference with each other. So this is sort of a one-stop shop solution. You stick up your 360-degree antenna, and that will cover all directions. Okay, up to 64 subscriber modules or CPE devices can connect to this awesome solution. So obviously it goes without saying, it says it in the name, it is ideal for MicroPOP applications. So, just to summarize where MicroPOP applications fall in, this applies when you need to extend coverage of certain areas. So you can deploy the MicroPOP 3000 in places unreachable by the main tower, or to add adjacent coverage to new subscribers with lower overall density. Okay, you can inject new capacity, so deploy the MicroPOP 3000 to a set of customers demanding especially high capacity services. Okay, so not just in this scenario, it's a low number of subscriber modules or clients, but they've got a very high capacity demand. Okay, so then you're going to sort of say, cool, these are slightly maybe higher end clients, and we're going to maybe backhaul some capacity using a point-to-point link to their specific area, stick up a MicroPOP solution, and then basically cap it at, let's say, 5, 10 specific high-end clients that we're going to provide extremely high capacity to. Okay, and then last but not least, this is pretty cool. You can use it to backhaul for outdoor Wi-Fi access points. So you deploy the MicroPOP 3000 ePMP and ePMP subscriber modules to create a hub and spoke backhaul for multiple Wi-Fi access points. So what that basically means is if you've got an application, let's say a university, where you want to set up multiple Wi-Fi hotspots, maybe one by the main hall, maybe one by the main canteen, another one by the sports grounds. Okay, you need to get Wi-Fi to each of those locations. You can use the MicroPOP 3000, from wherever your fiber breakout is, for instance, and then use that as a backhaul to multiple subscriber modules, which would obviously be connected directly to your outdoor wireless Wi-Fi access points. So, instead of having to cable up or lay down fiber to connect up all your outdoor wireless Wi-Fi access points, stick up a radio, a MicroPOP 3000, and obviously connect it up to the relevant subscriber modules, which will be located right next to your outdoor wireless Wi-Fi access points. So this is just a quick illustration, in summary, why do we have these MicroPOP solutions, both the 3000L, which is a bit more directional, and the 3000 MicroPOP, or MP3000, which is a full 360. And it's basically just to get capacity to where it's needed most, okay? So where you urgently need to get capacity, and don't foresee the requirement of a full 3000, ePMP 3000 that can serve up to 120 subscriber modules, then either the 3000L or the MicroPOP 3000 is definitely the way to go. It's extremely cost effective. I think if you've maybe worked with any other MicroPOP solutions, you'll be pleasantly surprised. Cambium is a premium brand, as we know, but they've actually come in at a surprisingly impressive price points on these latest units. So yeah, use it to fill in the gaps, but also consider it as a migration tool to get the ball rolling. Start up in an area with a 3000L or MP3000. Test the waters. See if in a year's time or so, maybe even a few months, you've got a whole bunch of new internet clients that have jumped on board. you're reaching your capacity threshold, then no problem. You would have already standardized on the Force 300 subscriber modules. All you need to do is swap out that base station and then put in a fully kitted out ePMP 3000, and then that'll open up your capacity. You'll have 802.11 AC Wave 2, be able to push up to 1.2 gigabits per second, and of course with that 4x4 MIMO, that base station will communicate with 2 subscriber modules at once. So you're really doubling up on your speeds just based on that functionality. So yeah, guys, in summary, these are just a few extra tools to help bring the Cambium wireless fabric to you guys as users, as ISPs, as installers and integrators. Okay, that sort of forms a middle layer here, whereby you've got your towers set up with the relevant base stations to help serve everything from smaller residential clients all the way up to your small to medium enterprise businesses, as well as your larger enterprises as well. Okay, and that's all backed up by not only your Wi-Fi kit, as we mentioned in the university example, but as well as the backhauling equipment on the back end. So whether it's a big or small application, we've got all the tools to help you bring the Cambium wireless fabric to life, whereby you've got multiple devices, whether it be outdoor wireless, indoor Wi-Fi, that will all work perfectly together, and you'll be able to get full visibility of every single device for free via Cambium's cloud-hosted management platform, which is called CN Maestro, completely license free. Okay. Furthermore, obviously being Cambium, a premium brand, top of the line solution, this is also globally supported by the Cambium team and of course the Hudaco technical team. So, whether you're looking to connect something from 2 meters or to 245 kilometers, the Cambium solution will be able to sort you out. Cool, guys. So thank you. That's just the conclusion of this quick to the point update. If you have any questions, please do pop it in the comment section and I'll be happy to answer them. But thank you for taking the time to join me. I highly appreciate it.
Right. Thank you so much, Charles. That was a great presentation. And we are grateful to you for sharing this information with us. Just to recognize who's on the call with us, Wilson, thank you very much for being with us for the 3rd session today. We appreciate you taking your whole morning out just to hang out with us today. We really appreciate that. I'm sure there's been, really helpful information for Simon and for Frederick, who are part of the Hudaco team. At this point, I do not see any questions in the chat box, neither do I see on our question and answer tab. I guess that's my cue to say, to wish you all a fantastic Friday afternoon and a great weekend ahead. Please look out for more information from us. Follow us at, on LinkedIn at Hudaco Kenya. You will also receive an automated message post this session with the link address to our YouTube channel. Please feel free to go there and see the other webinars that we've posted there. Of course, alongside this one as well, share it with your peers, your colleagues, your friends. We look forward to you joining us in our next session, which is scheduled for next week, Thursday and Friday. Right. All have a good afternoon and a great weekend ahead. Bye-bye now.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Terry, and thank you to everyone that joined once again. We hope you took away some valuable information.
Right. Thanks, Charles, as always. Have a good one. Bye-bye now.